if it isn't one thing after another, I got my T56 installed in my Mustang, and instantly the throwout bearing broke. The only OEM thing left in this transmission, the Ford OEM throwout bearing, left the chat, just left a line of brake fluid down on the ground as I went to go pull the car out, and so here we are.
1, 2, 3!
What is going on, everybody? My name is Seth and you're watching 252 Squad, and in today's video I'm going over my very broken T56 swapped S197 and how I broke my T56 not even a mile after swapping it. So this car right here, as you can see by the trail of sadness coming out of the bay, has a broken throwout bearing. The OEM Ford throwout bearing went out on me, it clapped the bed, started pouring fluid out everywhere, and I think I know why, and I'm gonna get to that. But let's get the car inside, get it up, and get in inspecting it and seeing what the damage really is. So looking down in there, you can see the actual brake fluid dripping out of the throwout bearing and coming down the bell housing all the way down there and making a mess in the floor. So that is definitely the throwout bearing itself right there, leaking right there. Alrighty, so as you can see behind me, went ahead and got the T56 out. That actually didn't take that bad. It was about 45 minutes, somewhere around there in that time frame to get the T56 out. I went ahead and got the throwout bearing off to just inspect. And what I found out is that this thing is completely clapped. Like, it does not move at all. There is no travel whatsoever. I cannot compress this one. I got the new one in box here, and I'm pretty sure I could just take one-handed, and as you can see, start compressing it down with one hand if I didn't have so much brake fluid on it. So you can see I can compress it like that. The old one, I cannot move whatsoever. Like, that thing is stiff as can be. So what I have determined is that somehow the throwout bearing messed up, and what I'm thinking caused that is because I did not set the air gap when I was installing this T56. So let me get into that. All right, so before we actually get to measuring the air gap, I want to explain how the Ford throwout bearings work, these hydraulic style throwout bearings. So these hydraulic style throwout bearings are sprung. You can see this is in the full travel position. Therefore, you do not necessarily want an air gap. If you have any bit of an air gap between the throwout bearing here and the surface of the pressure plate, you're gonna have an issue with an overextension and popping of the throwout bearing. That is what happened to my previous one from what I have determined. So what you're gonna want is you're gonna want it to be pressed against the pressure plate with about a ½ inch of travel there. Some people on the forum say an inch, some people say ½ inch. Mantic Clutch says ½ inch of travel or preload on the throwout bearing. So I'm gonna be going with ½ inch. So that is how these work. A lot of the other videos you see on the internet are LS style or other style of throwout bearings that cause for you to take the spring out and measure at the bottom. You can't do it that way. So let me show you how to actually measure for this. So we're gonna start with the throwout bearing installed and torqued down to the actual transmission mounting surface here. So we're gonna get our first measurement. And so to do that, I can use either a ruler or a straight edge and then some kind of caliper tool. Some people just use a tape measure. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You wanna make sure it's zeroed out, and then you're just gonna stick it in like this. And you're gonna go from the flat surface down to where the transmission and bell housing meet. And make sure that you're contacting pretty right there, about like that. And so when you get a measurement like that, we're going to come up with 4.671 inches there. And it's good to always measure from multiple different spots. So turning it like this and measuring up here, turning it and then measuring it right there, and then getting an average of all the measurements together. So this is going to be measurement A. Make sure to not compress this like some videos do. We're going to leave it at the full travel. So our next measurement is going to be from the mating surface of the bell housing, where it's going to mate from the transmission to the actual pressure plate points there where the throwout bearing contacts. So the way we're going to be doing that is the same way as the last time, zeroing it out with the gauge and then coming down and meeting right where the pressure point hits the fingers there. And so we're going to come up with a measurement here of about 4.51 on this one. And it's the same thing, get a few around and then average them out to get your average for your B measurement there. So after going through what I got, this is what I have. So your A measurement is going to be your throwout to the transmission face. So that is your throwout bearing to the face of the transmission. I got an average of 4.683 inches. And then my B measurement is my pressure plate to bell housing. And on that, I got 4.538, giving me my current preload of 0.145 inches. So we got to get that closer to 0.500 inches. In order to achieve this, we need to add shims like these. These are from Tick Performance. These are just shims to shim into the back of the throwout bearing, and it allows it to space it out to get your preload right. So I went ahead and got these shims in behind the slave cylinder here, or throwout bearing. Got everything remeasured, so I measured my A again, which was from here to the face right here, where it's going to mount to there. So from here to there, I remeasured that, took my averages when I got for the first time, because nothing changed up there, and I ended up coming out with now having 0.547 inches of preload on this throwout bearing. So 0.547 inches of this will be pushed back of the throwout bearing, allowing me to have constant pressure on these fork fingers right here without pushing into the pressure plate, and allowing me to have adequate travel for my throwout bearing. That way I don't overextend it and pop it again, hopefully. So in the short amount of driving that I did with the T56, I did realize that going from the MGW short throw that I had with the MT82 to the factory T56 shifter, I didn't like it too much. It was a long throw. I wasn't used to it. I didn't really want to reacquaint myself. So I did the full send route, went over to modify my Sting, and got a Steeda shifter for the T56 Magnum XL with the whole kit to install, all from Steeda, the Steeda Triax. So we're going to be slapping that in as well when we're doing the new throw bearing. So as far as the shifter install goes, I went ahead and got the old shifter box off. I just went ahead and loosened the 4 bolts, hit it with a little chisel, popped it loose. If you have it in the car, it's probably a lot easier to get off than what I did. And then I went ahead and cleaned up all the old silicone that lines the sporter, making sure not to get any down into the shifter area, because that leads to the output shaft. And I just don't think the idea of having silicone going into the transmission would be a great idea. So I made sure to get all that cleaned out of there. Now I'm going to layer a thin bead of silicone around here, and then drop the shifter on, and then go ahead and get it torqued down. So now with all of that done, I'm going to go ahead and get the T56 reinstalled in the car, and hopefully everything goes good from there and it doesn't break a throwout bearing again. All right, so the car has been up and driving for about 2 months now since the last clip you saw. I don't want to say that it is perfect, but it is much, much better than it was before, especially with the MT82 in it. I'm still having an issue where at high RPMs when I go to shift, I've got the car through break-in. It seems like the clutch pedal wants to push back out at me. It's causing me to have a little bit of issues as far as being able to shift fast. But I do think it is the clutch master cylinder. I do have one of those on order. I have a 1314 GT500 style. That's going to be the next thing we slap in here. Hopefully that's going to remedy the issue as far as that goes. But as far as setting the air gap and everything, this seemed to work. The Steeda Triax in there, I love that shifter. Is amazing. It is like shifting the action on a bolt action rifle. Like, it is just notchy going into gear every time. Really, really like that. Haven't missed a singular shift even with the clutch issue with the T56 swap so far. And with that being said, I have a little bit of footage, a little wholesome footage. My next door neighbors have seen the channel and love the car, and so they wanted a ride in it, so I decided to give them a ride with the parents' permission. And so I'm going to insert a little bit of clips here. You probably saw a little bit in the beginning of giving one of the kids in the neighborhood a ride in the car, and it was just an awesome moment. Made the whole thing worth it. So I hope you enjoyed this little bit. Thank you very much for watching the video. Peace out and see you next time. Ready?
Go ahead.
How do you feel about it?
It's like, the power just like puts me back.
Oh yeah.